toxic masculinity.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Next story.
COVID may be Wuhan lab bioweapon? Bioweapon?
And this is why I have her read the news so that she can mess it up. All right, well, let's have a look here. Hold on, let me...
Can you tell me how to pronounce this?
I-
Bioweapon? Bioweapon
Well, let's...
accident?
Let me just read the original headline here on Fox. It says, former top State Department investigator says COVID-19 outbreak may have resulted from bioweapons research accident.
Well, I think we knew this a year ago.
Well, but here's the thing. So, yeah, there's always been speculation about this, but this guy, according to this article, this guy seems like one of the people that you think, okay, this guy's an expert. This guy's done the research. He's involved in this sort of thing. So he's a much better. He's somebody that you would, that would know about this. He's somebody that would know about this kind of thing. And so it adds some validity to this, because I think before, previously this has just been speculation, or it's mostly been speculation by most people, although you have had, prominent people mention it and talk about it as a possibility. But for somebody like this to talk about it, it adds a lot of validity to this theory. So let's read a little bit of this. It says, as top U.S. officials prepare to meet their Chinese counterparts for the first face-to-face meeting during the Biden administration, the State Department's former lead investigator who oversaw the task force into the COVID-19 virus origin tells Fox News that he not only believes that the virus escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but that it may have been the result of research that the Chinese military, or People's Liberation Army, was doing on a bioweapon. The Wuhan Institute of Virology is not the National Institute of Health, David Asher, now a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, told Fox News in an exclusive interview. It was operating a secret classified program, in my view, and, I'm just one person. My view is it was a biological weapons program. Asher has long been a follow-the-money guy who has worked on some of the most classified intelligence investigations for the State Department and Treasury, both under Democrat and Republican administrations. He led the team that uncovered the International Nuclear Procurement Network run by the father of Pakistan's nuclear program, A.Q. Khan. I didn't know that. And uncovered key parts of North Korea's secret uranium enrichment. He believes the Chinese Communist Party has been involved in a massive cover-up during the past 14 months. I mean, this guy is a legit guy. I mean, it's hard to explain. When you read all of these, his resume out, it makes a lot more sense about why him in particular, his belief in this theory gives it so much validity. It's one of those things where you can't just say, this guy's an expert, he knows what he's talking about. Running through his resume, makes it far more convincing, I think. And if you believe, as I do, that this might have been a weapons vector gone awry, not deliberately released, but in development and then somehow leaked, this has turned out to be the greatest weapon in history, Asher said during a panel discussion at this panel thing. Okay, you've taken out 15 to 20% of the global GDP. You've killed millions of people. The Chinese population has barely been affected. Their economies roared back, being number one in the entire G12. Yeah. It's an interesting thought. It's one of those things where, so there was basically several different theories about how nasty this potentially was, right? In terms of culpability of the Chinese. The first thought was that, the most innocent thought was that it was just this naturally occurring virus that they caught in what they call the wet market, right? Which is the animal market, where people would buy food, live animals were there and stuff like that. Yeah, weird animals. And you remember all the bat jokes, bat soup, eating bats and stuff like that. But very quickly, there were people that came from China that said, no, this came from the Wuhan lab over there. And there was a lot of speculation because...
Well, I heard one guy was killed
Mm-hmm.
after he tried to warn people
Yeah, yeah.
there is a virus escape, and he tried to do this back in 2019, I think, the
Right,
end of
right.
the
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Yeah, I think there may have been several people killed, actually, who maybe wanted to warn people who the Chinese government thought maybe could spill the beans. They're trying to quiet people up. So,
Hmm.
but the original, the sort of like the least culpable theory was that it came from this food market, and then the next theory was that, well, maybe they had they had this virus in the lab and they were working on it and it escaped. And then the next worst theory was that it might have been a virus that had been engineered in some way, somehow modified by the lab scientists. And then another theory was that it was completely developed by the lab scientists, and it was like an artificial virus or something like that. And then so there were all these different kind of various theories that people had. And one theory was that it was a bioweapon. Uh, and so now you go from having a bioweapon, which I thought was actually the most insidious theory, to okay, not the most insidious theory, but in the realm of the most insidious theories. And then the absolute most insidious theory was that it was a bioweapon that was intentionally released. So that's what some people actually think that. Now, that's not what this guy's saying. He's not saying that it was intentionally released, but his theory is that it was a bioweapon that was being developed in this lab on orders of the Chinese military, and that it accidentally was released, so that it was somehow manipulated by the lab scientists to make it deadlier than your just typical flu or your typical coronavirus, which is very possible. And if this guy thinks so, I believe it, because this guy, to me, this guy is. I mean, we're just reading one article here, but I think Fox News is legit. I think this guy seems legit, and I believe it. So this implicates China in something far worse, far more sinister than we have ever really realized before. Um, and it's
Well,
being and it's being and it's the theory is being validated by somebody who is who's fairly significant here.
well, I know for sure that this live stream is gonna be demonetized
I
completely.
don't mention COVID too often. All right. Well, do you have any thoughts on this subject now that we've
Well,
already
I
been
already
demonetized?
said that we kind of knew that
Yeah.
way
Well,
back.
you're a little bit more cynical than I am, so you're willing to believe kind of the worst immediately. Anytime you hear a rumor,
Russians, we kind of like we hope for the best, but we
yeah,
prepare for the worst.
yeah, but you kind of always expect. I try to keep an open mind, and I try to be a little bit more positive. Philip, what do you think? Are you more positive? Are you more are you more like
I'm
Valer? Are you more cynical?
well, I'm being more like realistic, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was an I don't think it was like an accident.
Oh, you're actually going so far as to say they intentionally released it.
More or if that would be an accident, you can at least warn people.
It doesn't really make sense that it was intentional though, because people in China were dying first. If it was
Do
intentional, it's weird to.
Chinese communist government care about its
It
own
would no,
citizens?
no, no. I don't think that they necessarily do. However, it's not the most efficient or optimal way to deliver a virus to the rest of the world. You would have wanted to like release it somewhere like Brazil or something and let it spread. You wouldn't have wanted to infect your own people first. That it just doesn't make any sense.
You infect Chinese people first, then they go to celebrate Chinese New Year in America, and here you go.
It's not what happened. It's
Okay.
not what happened.
That's
Well,
one of the theory how virus
yeah, yeah. We
got
will
here.
fight about this later after the show. All right. So, shall we move on to the next story, Miss Cynical?
Okay.
All right.
Professor forced to undergo, again cannot pronounce words, so didn't read headlines.
Right.
Professor forced to undergo sensitivity training for mentioning Tupac album.
You got it perfectly right. Every word was perfectly pronounced. Pronounced perfectly.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, this is true. This is a weird thing, and not only that, but campus reform has a similar story. And I'm going to go over the other one. But Toxic Masculinity, weekdays 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.